Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori, and today we are going to talk about the books that I read in September. I did end up getting through 5 books this month, and several of them were featured in my TBR game, so we're going to talk about that. But before we get to the books that I did read, I want to talk a little bit about the books that I either put down or didn't get a chance to finish in the month of September. For one whole week of this month, I was out on a family vacation to the Black Hills of South Dakota, and it was amazing. We had a fantastic time. The kids got to see a whole bunch of things that were new to them, and my husband and I were able to see things that we hadn't seen since we were teenagers, and it was really, really cool. We got to go to a lot of the major landmarks out in the Black Hills area, and it was a great time. We had a fabulous, fabulous vacation. I didn't get as much reading in as I thought I was going to. It was more of a go and see all of the things vacation rather than a sit down and put your feet up vacation. If you watched my TBR game that I did back at the end of August, I talked about how my goal for September was to read female authors. There was one book that was an exception to that, and that was, of course, House of Chains by Steven Erikson, which I have been reading for the past month and a half-ish, 2 months. And I've been slowly making my way through this. This is a reread for me, and I have been kind of just taking it very slowly. Malazan is one of those series that I firmly believe isn't one that I can binge, and I don't think I could ever just sit down and rush through the rest of the series. So I'm really letting this series just take us on our own little wandery journey as long as it takes. But I am over halfway through the book now, and I do intend to try to finish it here in October. I did read a little bit more of House of Chains in September, but not a whole lot because most of my time was taken up with the other books that we're going to talk about. But for those of you that are patiently waiting for my thoughts on not just House of Chains, but then moving into the books of the Malazan Book of the Fallen that I haven't read yet, I promise I am making progress, and I intend to finish House of Chains if I can in October. There was one book that I got a little ways into and then did end up putting down, and that was Sordanian, book 1 of the Triumphary Revelations by L.L. Stevens. This is a book that was on my priority list, and I've been really excited to get to it for the last year, honestly. And this one, the only reason I'm putting it down for now, and I did get about 100 pages into the book, is because this is very complex epic fantasy. And I'm somebody that reads a lot of epic fantasy, but just the brain space that I have right now, this is a little bit more than I have the capacity for. There's a lot of proper nouns to keep track of. I am having a little bit of a hard time visualizing this one as well, and I'm not sure why, but this is just one that I recognized my brain isn't at the level that this book would require right now in terms of just being able to keep track of everything and lean into the story instead of just trying to keep track of all of the names of things. So I am going to put this one down for a little bit and try to come back to it when I am a little bit more in that headspace. I do think I've been reading a ton of epic fantasy the last few months, and really chonky epic fantasies, and I think my brain is just a little bit like done right now. So I am going to be putting this one down for the time being. This is a temporary DNF. I do definitely intend to come back to this story when my brain is a little bit more inclined that direction. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the books that I did finish in the month of September. The first one is my 5-star read for this month, and that is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa. This is the story of a young man who goes on a road trip trying to find a new home for his cat. And it is beautiful. This is such a beautiful story. I did cry when I read this, a few people that have read it before did give me a heads up that I would probably cry if I read this, or that it was likely at least, and they were right. I did cry at the end of this book. One of the things that I'm absolutely loving about Japanese novels, especially the ones that I've read so far, is they have this really organic, simple way of exploring life. And I know that sounds kind of vague, but I don't really know how to put it other than that. It's really refreshing. It's really light, but deals with heavy themes at the same time. And the bond between human beings, the bond between humans and animals, and just the way that they explore ordinary beauty in life is really lovely, and I'm enjoying it immensely. So this one is going to be added to a list of translated fiction that I have read from Japanese authors that I absolutely have loved in the last couple of years. This one really touched my heart, and for anybody out there who's a cat lover or animal lover in general, definitely pick this book up. Be prepared to have a box of tissues next to you, especially at the end, but I love the way that it's kind of this episodic look through the history of this young man, through his cat's eyes and the different people that have left an impact on his life. Next up, guys, I caught up on a ongoing series, and that felt amazing. And it's a series that I really, really love, and I have loved for quite a while now. And I finally got to this book, The Sundering Hours by Jacqueline Hagan. This is book 4 in the Riverfall Chronicles, which begins, of course, with The Wickwire Watch, which was a Spiffbo finalist, a self-published fantasy blog-off finalist a couple of years ago. And man, Jacqueline has this way of genre blending that is so engaging. It's so engaging. It's this mashup of kind of Edwardian gas lamp mystery mushed together with epic fantasy in a way that honestly feels equally balanced with both of those kind of tones and styles, which is amazing, to be honest. I love a good genre blend, and Jacqueline does it so well. And coming back to these characters in every book since the first one has really felt like coming home in a way. There's a familiarity there that I just love. What I can say, I'm not going to spoil anything, so obviously it's the 4th book in a series, so please start with book 1 if you haven't tried the series already. It's such a character-driven story, which you guys know that I love, but the magic system is so rooted in the supernatural and in emotions and portals between realms. It's really intriguing, and we got a little bit more of an expanded view into that magic system in book 4, which was great. And a little bit deeper with some of the characters, and we got to travel to a different part of the map in this one. I will say that this one was a little bit slower, I think, than the 3 that I've read before it. There was a spot in the middle where it did feel like we were kind of really slowing down a little bit more than I wanted it to. But a lot of good character growth in this book, and I think it's setting up a lot of really tense things coming up for us in the next couple of books, I would guess, because Jacqueline does not pull punches when it comes to hitting you in the heart with her characters and the things that happen to them. So if you love a motley crew, character-driven, amazing genre blend of an epic fantasy gaslamp Edwardian story, please read these, because I love them, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does in her upcoming book 5 of this series. One of the books that I picked up while we were out on vacation in the Black Hills was at the Crazy Horse Memorial, and I chose Delphine Redshirt's memoir, Bead on an Anthill. This is her story of growing up in the Lakota Sioux tribe, and she's kind of exploring the dichotomy between ancient traditions of her people and living in a modern world. And it was really interesting. One of the things that I really liked about this memoir is that she included a lot of her Lakota language and was giving us the words for things and translating them right there on the page and what they meant, and the way that her people describe things that oftentimes is very different than how we would obviously describe things in English or other languages. And I'm a big language nerd, so I loved getting a chance to see into the Lakota language a little bit in this story. I think there was a lot here that was really fascinating, and it was impactful for me to get kind of a glimpse into her childhood and what it was like for her growing up. I will say that the writing style of this memoir was not my favorite. I think it didn't work for me as much as I was hoping it would, and I actually feel like it pulled away from a lot of the more impactful aspects of the story. And it's always really hard to say stuff like this when you're talking about a memoir, because like, it's somebody's life story told in their own words, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I was able to finish Bead on an Anthill this month as well, and it was really nice to get to one of the new books that I had purchased when we were out on vacation. So yeah, that was my next finished read. Continuing yet another series that I began actually at the beginning of this year with Curse of Shallion, I read Paladin of Souls by Lois McMaster Bujold. And I gotta say, it was lovely to get back into Bujold's writing style. She has such a easily engaging prose, which is something that I think is one of my favorite aspects of her storytelling style. And we go back to this world with a character who was kind of on the sidelines with Curse of Shallion, Dowager Queen Ista, and she takes center stage in this second book. So this one was kind of a mixed bag for me, which kind of surprised me, because a lot of people have said that they actually like Paladin of Souls more than Curse of Shallion. So I went into this expecting another Bujold masterpiece, and there is no denying that this woman is an incredibly gifted writer, and I love the uniqueness of the world that she's built here in this series, and the way that she writes these characters so realistically. They're living and breathing off the page, which is very cool, and I love it when an author is able to do that. So it seems so easily. However, there were a couple things about this that kind of detracted from my enjoyment of it. And one of them is a more personal thing, where I tend to stray away from epic fantasy that really delves into themes and practice of demonic possession and the occult, and like, as a Christian, that's just something that I'm very careful with. And this one did kind of spotlight that a little bit more widely, I would say, even than Curse of Shallion, which also had some elements of that. I thought she handled it way better in Curse of Shallion than she did here. I'm still kind of percolating about how I felt about it. I didn't really feel like I was engaged with this one as nearly as much. And the other thing is, and this is something that I've been kind of noticing speckled here and there in fantasy that drives me a little bit bonkers, is when you have a female protagonist who is connected with some kind of magic system and it's introduced in some kind of sexual manner. And I'm trying to be as vague as possible here because I don't want to spoil anything. But it's like, oh, of course, we have a female protagonist, so her magical abilities must be linked to something sexual. And that's disappointing, to be honest. I get really just kind of over it as soon as I read that. And in fairness to Bujold, that's a very small part of the story. It was just kind of how it was introduced, how the main conflict was introduced, and that just kind of threw me out a little bit. So overall, I did not enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed Curse of Shallion. Unfortunately, I still think that Bujold is a phenomenal writer, but the pacing in this one just kind of dragged a little bit for me too. I didn't feel like it was as tense and the stakes were as engaging as Shallion was. And I actually liked the characters better, way better, in Curse of Shallion overall as a full cast. So anyways, that's my thoughts on Paladin of Souls, but I have continued another series with this book, which makes me incredibly happy. So all I have left in the World of the Five Gods trilogy is The Hallowed Hunt. I actually have heard that that one's not connected as closely to the first two books, so I'm not sure if it takes place before the other two in terms of chronology. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see what it holds. I have no idea. My last read for September was a nonfiction book, which I don't read those very often. So this was just kind of a random mood read, I guess. And this one was This Too Shall Last, Finding Grace When Suffering Lingers by KJ Ramsey. This is Christian nonfiction that just kind of delves into God's presence in our suffering. And when we're going through really hard things in life, how God's presence changes that experience. I think she had some really great points in here, especially about how we as Christians approach suffering and the people who are suffering in our lives. And it was really interesting to hear from her perspective as somebody that lives with a chronic autoimmune disease, and just kind of as she's weaving her story into that and her healing and growth and learning how to understand God's presence in that suffering. It was really interesting. Some of the stuff that she was bringing up in this book are things that I have been talking about and bringing up in conversations for a really long time, so I really appreciated that. I did have some theological differences with how she was approaching some of this, but overall I thought it was a really interesting read, and I appreciated getting a chance to break up some of the other heavier reads this month with something a little bit shorter and a little bit different in tone. So this is the stack of books that I finished in September, and honestly I didn't think I was going to get through this many. Especially after the vacation when we were just so busy and we spent so much great family time running around seeing all the cool things. I wasn't sure if I was going to finish any of these this month, but I'm actually very pleased with this and had some great variety, had some great reads, continued some series, and it was overall a good time. So I would love to know down in the comments below what you guys read for the month of September. What was your favorite read? Did you mood read? Did you have a TBR? Tell me all of the things. And yeah, I have a really important video coming out next, the next one after this. I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break, and I'm going to explain that in my next video, so stick around for that. If you like my content, I'd love to have you hang out on my little corner of the internet, so feel free to like and subscribe. Check out my links in the description box for my books and all of my other socials and all that good stuff. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a fantastic beginning of fall. I'm really looking forward to hoodie weather. I can't tell you, it's been so hot here. We haven't actually had good autumn weather yet. So I'm hoping for some good, slightly cool hoodie weather coming up here, because that will be amazing and I'll actually want to go outside and go on walks, which would be great. So I hope you guys are having a great week. I hope that you are reading some 5-star reads, and I'll see you in the next video.